Welcome to another exciting edition of Parks Are for People, brought to you by the LA County Department of Parks and Recreation. I'm Steve Foulger, your host, and we've got quite a lineup for you on today's show. History, nature, and plenty of action. Whittier Narrows Nature Center is where we'll begin, with a journey deep into the outback of this wildlife way station. Next up, we'll get your adrenaline flowing with a look back at youth wrestling sponsored by the Amateur Athletic Foundation. The rustic splendor of Placenta Canyon will beckon you. Finally, you'll have the opportunity to explore the mysteries of the deep, but first, let's go to Santa Clarita Park for a lesson in canine coercion, otherwise known as dog obedience. Who says you can't teach an old dog new tricks? Parks Are for People has found someone who can. This is Howard Carson. As you can see, he not only loves dogs, they love him. But that doesn't mean they don't respect him, too. For over 15 years, Howard has spent most of his spare time doing what he enjoys most, caring for and training man's best friend. We thought we'd talk to some of his participants to get their honest and unbiased opinion on just how good of a teacher Howard really is. So here we are at Santa Clarita Park in Saugus, where people lovers have been bringing their dogs for years from all over the county to learn the art of dog discipline. You, ma'am, have you had the opportunity to study with Mr. Carson? And is he a good teacher? Well, there you have it, folks. Another satisfied customer. The program consists of 10-week courses offered 4 times a year in 3 different categories: novice, advanced, and open. But most people and their dogs fall into the beginning category. This course is really about learning how to live with your dog.
You know, class, I've talked to you about training your dog, the proper way of training your dog, the proper way of handling your dog. I told you that you have to set standards. Okay, you set standards for your dog, and you make your dog work up to what your standards are. In other words, training your dog is no different than training a child. You give your command and you follow through.
Many of these people will never enter their dog in a show. Their main concern is just to teach their dog to mind them.
You know, I think a dog is much happier when it's obedient, trained, and we work as a team together. Right turn. Left turn. Right turn. Oops. Right turn. About turn. Backward front. Heel. Exercise finished.
Good girl. Good girl. There we go. Good girl.
In the beginning class, the real students are the humans. They learn how to take command of their dog using voice inflection and the choke chain. But the emphasis is always on praise and affection for a good performance. The choke chain is designed to remain loose around the dog's neck until it is yanked. Using this method, a dog quickly learns the basic commands. Well, most of the time. The American Kennel Club has developed 3 basic levels of proficiency which Howard teaches. Novice, which earns the degree of CD or companion dog and requires the mastery of basic skills such as sitting, heeling, and staying. Open, earning the title of CDX or companion dog excellent, requiring work off the leash such as retrieving. And utility, earning the title UD or utility dog, which requires mastery of hand signals and jumping skills. It takes about 3 years of diligent work to reach the utility level. Howard has been offering his classes through the LA County Department of Parks and Recreation for 3 years. And he's proud of his own dogs, Shannon and Sheba. Howard, thanks for taking the time to talk with us. Tell me, what is it that really motivates you about working with dogs?
Well, Steve, I love all types of dogs, all breeds, and a lot of people think it has to be a purebred dog, but it does not have to be a purebred dog. A lot of our dogs come from the pound, the animal shelters, and the rescue organizations such as Dobie Rescue, and I have a name for them. I call them All-Americans, and the All-Americans are just as smart as your purebred dogs, and they make a nice pet for you.
Courses are conducted on weeknights and Saturday mornings. The fee for the 10-week program is $30, and Santa Clarita Park is just minutes off Interstate 5 in Saugus. Take the Valencia Boulevard exit east to Seco Canyon Road, turn left, and follow it to the park. If communication is breaking down between you and your dog, or maybe he's getting the upper paw on you, you might consider Howard Carson's program.
About turn.
A park is a nice place, especially if you're a bird. There are trees to perch on, bugs to eat, and you can pass your time with a little people watching. Sure, the park's a nice place to visit, but would you want to live here? Well, if you were a bird planning to build your nest at Whittier Narrows Nature Sanctuary, the answer is yes. Located next to the San Gabriel River in South El Monte, this 277-acre wildlife reserve gives local wildlife a quiet and undisturbed place to live. No less than 260 species of birds inhabit the area. During the fall and spring months, flocks of migrating birds stop here to rest before continuing on their journey. For many years, thousands of birds have called Whittier Narrows home. With the arrival of settlers and land developers at the turn of the century, most birdlands were destroyed. But due entirely to the support of concerned bird lovers, this land remained untouched. The sanctuary was created when the National Audubon Society purchased the land back in 1939. The sole purpose of the society was to provide an acceptable area for birds to live. For 3 decades, the land went undisturbed, except for the footsteps of the occasional bird watcher. Then in 1970, the land was bought by the County of Los Angeles and given to the Department of Parks and Recreation. Since that time, the department has continued to protect this fragile environment for the sake of those living inside. Within the natural area are several different types of living environments, including several small lakes. Birds have a choice of marsh, meadow, thick brush, or lakeside living. This is Lake Aquatecos, which in Latin means water home. This gives waterfowl an undisturbed aquatic environment that's very difficult to find here in Southern California. Even the massive electrical towers that run through the park, considered an eyesore by some, provide the birds with a place to perch or build a nest. This little slice of wilderness is not just for the birds. Rabbits and other wild animals run free inside the natural area. Within the park are nearly 200 types of native and non-native plant life. These plants not only create a habitat for the many creatures that live here, but provide the animals with the food they need to live. Humans are also welcome. Visitors are encouraged to visit the area and see up close the many inhabitants of the sanctuary. Whether you're a hardcore naturalist or just like looking at birds, a trip to this natural area isn't complete without a visit to the Whittier Narrows Nature Center. Inside the center are numerous displays that illustrate the nature and ecology of the sanctuary. There are even living examples of the wide variety of wildlife that can be found inside the preserve. A self-guided nature trail begins at the center and winds through the sanctuary. This gives the hiker a chance to see the many birds, plants, and animals that call Whittier Narrows home. The Whittier Narrows Nature Center is proud to have helped many wild animals and birds over the years. The center's commitment has remained firm even in recent times. In fact, this dedication to wildlife has taken off. For one Saturday, the Whittier Narrows Nature Center was really for the birds. In fact, a whole day was a celebration. Called the Day of the Bird, this outdoor festival was a fundraiser to help with the building of a rehabilitation center for lost and injured birds. The center will be particularly strong in helping a special type of bird known as a raptor, or bird of prey. Raptors include hawks and owls. There's a great need in Los Angeles County for facilities that take care of these wild animals. It takes a special type of person to rehabilitate animals like this, and with me is Lisa Peach, who is a rehabilitator. Lisa, what's going to happen today?
Well, the Day of the Bird is going to have a lot of special events, hikes, bird watches, arts and crafts festivals, and Indian dancing. And the proceeds from today are going to go to build a hospital for injured and orphaned birds of prey, so we can take care of them when they come in.
Like Dowser here?
Just like Dowser. Dowser's been with us just one day, and he's what's called an imprint. Somebody stole him from his nest to make a pet out of him. And because of that, he'll never be able to be set free.
How long will Dowser remain in captivity?
He'll have to spend the rest of his life, which can be up to 25 years in captivity. And hopefully he'll teach other people not to steal birds from their nest.
Well, we wish you the best of luck.
Well, thank you.
Okay. Many people started the day off with an early morning bird walk along the Whittier Narrows Nature Trail. After that, there were a variety of unique events throughout the day, including a demonstration of authentic Hopi Indian dancing. There was storytelling for the younger generation, and lots of food for everyone. Among the lectures on the natural area was a lesson on the kinds of birds the center will help.
He can turn his neck. He can actually turn it completely upside down. And the reason he has to do that
The
is
Whittier Narrows Nature Center is dedicated to the preservation of local wildlife. With the help of those individuals who attended the Day of the Bird, the Nature Center will continue to do so for a long time.
Quack, another word for fraud or fake. Thousands of quack medical products are advertising simple cures for problems ranging from baldness to cancer, luring you into believing they're the real thing. All are a waste of money. Many endanger your health. So before buying a questionable cure, ask your doctor or pharmacist first, because the next dead duck could be you. For a free booklet on quackery, write to Quackery, HFE 55, Rockville, Maryland, 20857.
Spring will mark another year of youth wrestling sponsored by the Amateur Athletic Foundation. Let's take a look back at highlights of last year's program.
Designed to give youngsters an introduction to the sport of amateur wrestling, the emphasis is on competition, sportsmanship, but most of all, just having a good time. While most people think of wrestling as an unrefined sport, history teaches us something very different.
Wrestling is acknowledged as the oldest competitive sport on record, with physical evidence that dates its beginnings to over 4,000 years ago. The ancient Egyptians were avid wrestlers, and much of their enthusiasm for the sport was accepted by the Greeks, who transformed it into a form of art. During the classic Greek period, wrestling and wrestlers were held in extremely high regard by aristocrats and noblemen. Plato was a well-known wrestling champion, and the sport was a major highlight of the ancient Greek Olympics. The ever-practical Romans used wrestling to teach their troops hand-to-hand combat as well as for sport. Great men wrestled in America as well. No less than 7 U.S. presidents were accomplished wrestlers. Most famous of these were Abraham Lincoln and George Washington. During his term, Teddy Roosevelt held weekly wrestling matches in the White House.
Interest in amateur wrestling has sharply risen in the last 100 years. Much of this new popularity has been created by the modern Olympics.
The 1984 Olympics brought amateur wrestling of the highest caliber to Los Angeles. The Olympics also created the Amateur Athletic Foundation.
Dedicated to providing entry-level involvement to young people, the Amateur Athletic Foundation has been instrumental in creating the amateur wrestling program.
The program is for youngsters between 8 and 18 years of age wanting to develop their skills in the art of wrestling. The wrestlers meet twice a week for 6 weeks. A $5 fee provides for protective headgear and personal instruction by experienced coaches. There are no teams. All wrestling is done on an individual basis. This helps the kids place the emphasis of the sport on having fun.
The wrestlers use high school rules which are actually derived from the ancient Greek way of wrestling. The rules are complex, with points being awarded to the wrestlers for the difficulty of their maneuvers.
Wrestling is a game of both athletic ability and intelligence. The more difficult the move, the more points are awarded. An escape is worth 1 point, but a reverse is worth 2. A pin is when a wrestler holds his opponent to the mat for a period of time. The number of points awarded for a pin depends on the way in which the move is done and for how long the move was held. Since the winner of the match is the person with the most points, a good wrestler must know how to use strategy against his opponent. But where does all this wrestling get a youngster? It gets them here. This is Canyon High School, site of the Amateur Athletic Foundation's Wrestling Championships. Divided into separate categories by weight, these competitors are here to put their wrestling talents to the ultimate test. Now these dedicated young athletes will find out if they have the speed and strength to be a winner in the sport of wrestling. The competition heats up for the would-be champions, and those who win their matches must go on and wrestle even tougher opponents. The matches become a struggle of endurance as the opponents try to outmaneuver each other. Amateur wrestling is an exciting sport, as we've seen, but it's still largely undiscovered in Southern California. Coach Robert Land explains why.
I would have to say that the primary reason being the geography and the nice climate in Southern California. Wrestling has not actually been too exposed to the area, but thanks to the Olympics a couple years back, it was a big success in Los Angeles. We had a lot of successful wrestlers, and the AAF saw that a lot of the kids were interested. So now, thanks to them, they're initiating the program around in various parts, and we're getting the chance to show the younger kids, give them an introduction to the sport, and perhaps if they're interested, they can go on to the collegiate level.
The competition is over and the day draws to a close. But each participant, winner or loser, has taken part in an event which is almost as old as recorded history. Who knows? Someday we might see one of these young wrestlers again, practicing the sport of yesterday in the Olympics of tomorrow. Remember the great California gold rush? How about the Spanish invasion? Hollywood westerns? This is Placenta Canyon County Park, a 350-acre nature preserve at the base of the San Gabriel Mountains that's rich in classic California history. Up until about 250 years ago, the Tataviam Indians were seasonal migrants to the canyon. In 1769, the Spaniards arrived, and Christianity gained a foothold among the Indians, leading eventually to the destruction of their culture. Half a century later, California came under Mexican rule, and the area became privately owned. In 1842, Placenta Canyon suddenly burst into prominence with the discovery of gold. Legend has it that one Francisco Lopez awoke from a dream of finding gold and returned to the task of digging up wild onions for his wife, only to discover the tiny nuggets clinging from the roots. The golden age of Placenta Canyon was launched. Today, the Oak of the Golden Dream occupies the site of Lopez's historic discovery. In the early 1900s, the Walker family acquired the land and built this home. Life wasn't easy for the Walkers and their 12 children, but they were a resourceful bunch and managed to utilize all that the land had to offer. They grew much of their own food, made fertilizer from the decaying leaves, and tapped a small oil well to produce heat and light. They even leased their land to Hollywood filmmakers. Many Western movies were shot in this rugged and isolated landscape. In the 40s and 50s, the Walker family sold the land to the state, and Placenta County Park came into being. There are 5 different ecosystems within the canyon. The Nature Center, completed in 1971, provides an ideal setting for educating park visitors. Operated by a dedicated staff of naturalists and volunteers, the Nature Center offers organized activities for schools, families, and individual nature lovers. The displays and exhibits tell the story of Placenta Canyon's complex environment, explaining the plants and animals, geology, weather, and climate patterns, and how they interact with one another. The balance of the ecological cycle is crucial to the survival of all forms of life in the canyon. Every Saturday and Sunday afternoon at 1 p.m., park visitors are invited to enjoy lectures and media presentations given by experts. The result is a greater appreciation of our natural history. True to its educational aims and purposes, the center maintains a close relationship with schools in the Los Angeles area. This joint venture makes possible the daily field trips available to school children.
A strong odor. And why do you suppose it
Every
has a
year,
strong
over
odor?
15,000 youngsters attend tours given by these highly trained individuals. The Nature Center is so popular, many field trips are booked up to 6 months in advance.
It smells a little bit like the sage that your mother puts in the turkey dressing.
A campground is located in an oak-wooded canyon, and hiking trails wander across the landscape. The most popular path is the Heritage Trail, which passes right by the Oak of the Golden Dream and the Walker family cabin. The entire canyon reflects the changes of season. Summer, winter, spring, or fall, the unique beauty of Placenta leaves its mark on each visitor. Placenta Canyon Park is easily reached by taking the Golden State or San Diego Freeway to Highway 14 and continuing north to Placenta Canyon Road. Through the many years of its existence, Placenta has been an inspiration for all who visit, from those who sought riches and wealth in the form of gold to those who seek the calm solitude of an afternoon in the woods.
Think for a minute. If every one of us gave just 5 hours a week, if we gave just 5% of what we earn to the causes we say we care about, it could add up to the biggest volunteer effort this country has ever seen. And we could accomplish things that right now we only dream about. Just 5 hours, just 5%. It's not that much to give, but what we could get back is immeasurable.
Gee, it's nice and warm today.
Think it's warm enough to go swimming?
My gosh, you'd freeze out there.
Hey, look, a frog man.
Yeah, hey, there's 2 of them.
One of them's a girl. Let's go see what they've got.
Hi.
Hi. Hello.
Hi.
Isn't it cold out there?
No, not with these suits on. No, I always want to try that.
Is it very difficult? No, not when you get used to it. Looks like a lot of fun.
Well, it is. You should learn how to do it. Can you both swim? Sure.
Al, why don't you invite them to your next class? You know, Al's an underwater diving instructor.
Oh, sure like to have you come down. Should be a good swimmer, though, and be in good physical...
It's kind of fun watching old movies, especially on exciting subjects like diving. But the sport of skin and scuba diving has changed a lot since this film was produced. And the Los Angeles County Department of Parks and Recreation has been a powerful force in the shaping of that history. Let's take an in-depth look at just how. Here in Southern California, the sport of diving really got its start back in the early 50s. All it took was Hollywood to glamorize the heroic exploits of Navy divers during World War II, and before long our local beaches were teeming with would-be frogmen. Getting into this new sport was easy. There was an abundance of Navy diving equipment at cut-rate prices in every war surplus store in town. All one had to do was plop the money down and walk out looking like Mike Nelson. The only problem was no one knew how to properly use the equipment, and that led to a serious problem. In 1954, the first diving-related death occurred in Los Angeles County. In response, the County Board of Supervisors called together a task force composed of experts from all facets of the diving community. Seeing education and qualified instruction as the solution to the problem, the department turned to the Scripps Institute of Oceanography in San Diego for help. Responding to the urgent need, the Institute's chief diver, Conrad Limbaugh, himself a former Navy diving instructor, took a select group of county aquatics specialists through an intensive instructor training program. These individuals went on to become the first ever recreational underwater safety instructors in the world. The year was 1955, and the LA County Underwater Instructor Certification Course had been born. Since then, 35 UICC training courses have been conducted, and county instructors number in the thousands. Let's take a look at just what goes into becoming one of the most respected diving instructors in the world.
or top. Or top or two, okay? This is the glass one. Clearing the snorkel. The other method is...
It starts in the dead of winter. 3 months of intensive classroom, pool, and open ocean training. While most sport divers would rather sit in front of their TV sets watching the football game, these hardy souls devote 12 consecutive weekends and over 200 hours to not only honing their skills as advanced divers, but also to becoming excellent communicators. As future instructors, they assume a responsibility to effectively impart the principles, laws, and techniques that together make up the science and sport of safe diving. The course begins with a rigorous test of the candidate's physical conditioning, which includes, among other requirements, a timed 400-meter swim, a 25-yard underwater swim with the recovery of a 10-pound weight, and finally a bailout requiring a candidate to hit the water with equipment in hand, swim to the bottom of the pool, and then completely suit up. Those who satisfactorily complete the swim requirements go on to the written and oral portions of the exam. Here candidates are tested on their experience and knowledge of diving principles, as well as their ability to effectively communicate in group situations.
It's okay to take your aide aside. Tell them exactly what you want them to do, how you want them to do it, when you want them to do it, to have a little more control on your aide.
With swimming, written, and oral phases of the test behind them, these would-be instructors are next subjected to a series of open ocean exercises designed to test their skill in the use of equipment and underwater teamwork. There's a lot to this sport of diving, but with a little practice, under the watchful eye of a county instructor, you could soon be exploring the mysteries of the deep. Since 1955, over 250,000 students have been trained, including me. So if you're looking for an exciting new sport, this just might be it. See you below. Well, that wraps up this edition. We hope you enjoyed it. The places, activities, and events that you've seen on Parks Are for People are made available to you through the Los Angeles County Department of Parks and Recreation. In the coming weeks, we'll take you through the ups and downs of cyclocross racing and on a trip to Catalina Island. In the meantime, if you have any questions about the show, give us a call downtown at area code 213-738-3034. I'm Steve Foulger. See you next time on Parks Are for People.